Good morning and welcome to Connect at the Capitol. I'm Kenneth Pratt and I'm with the Florida Bankers Association. I'm an attorney and lobbyist here, and I'm the chair of the Florida Bar's Governmental and Public Policy Advocacy Committee.
Hi, and I'm Rosanna, Catalano, an attorney and lobbyist too. I serve as vice chair of the committee.
You all might know that this year we've launched this new program that allows Florida bar attorneys that are also Florida lobbyists to get CLE credit. And so we have been having on Florida's leaders, and we are pleased as punch today to have on our CFO, Jimmy Patronis, and we're going to get right to the agenda here as soon as I introduce him a little bit. You all know that Jimmy Patronis is a native Floridian born. He was raised in Panama City. He is a partner also at Captain Anderson's in his spare time. They celebrated their 50th anniversary in 2017, and the food is fantabulous. He also is a graduate of Florida State, Gold Knolls, and served in the Florida House from 2006 to 2014, as well in the Public Service Commission, and now is serving in the role as Florida's CFO. Welcome to the show, Mr. CFO.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Rosanna. Thank you so much for having me. This is the new world of COVID. I think now this is probably the 8th or 9th different protocol we've used to try to communicate over the past 10 months. So anyhow, at some point we'll all figure out one that we can get along with. But thank you again for having me, and appreciate the opportunity to get to address your members.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we like to start our shows off by asking today's guests to kind of talk about their duties and their role. And so I want to hear about your roles for those folks that maybe don't come into contact with your office as much. Tell us about the breadth of your role as CFO.
Sure. So I tell people affectionately, I get to be the state's business manager. We keep the trains running on time at the Department of Financial Services, whether it be employee paychecks, employee retirement checks, paying every invoice, as we're managing every dollar the state transacts. At the same time, we regulate funeral homes. We license every insurance agent in the state of Florida. Our investigation arm, we have about 300 sworn law enforcement. They do insurance fraud, statewide. In addition, I'm also the state fire marshal. Got a couple little boys that are age 10 and 12 that really dig that part of the job. We go to a lot of fire stations together. But then at the same time, right now, we've got a tropical depression that's threatening the state of Florida. Our office, we do all the coordination of all urban search and rescue first responders, USAR, throughout the state when it comes to a time of disaster. And that also means deploying them out of state, as we did with Hurricane Sally and as the other storms that affected the Louisiana, Mississippi coast. We will coordinate all those resources with our task forces around the state, and we will then manage our teams to be able to be deployed out to other states to provide mutual aid, and at the same time ensuring that we are taking care of the state of Florida. Panama City is where I was born and raised, and kind of, for example, every single urban search and rescue task force was deployed to Northwest Florida when Hurricane Michael hit. Again, probably one of the more awesome responsibilities we have at our office, as we're coordinating these heroes that go in, and they're literally the first boots on the ground, going from door to door, removing debris, helping people ensure that we save as many lives as possible when storms are at their worst. I get to serve on the Florida Cabinet. Unique. Florida Cabinet is not structured in this way anywhere in any other 50 states. We still have, in this case, 4 elected statewide officers: the governor, the attorney general, Commissioner of Agriculture, and myself. We used to have a 7-member cabinet for those out there that remember what it looked like 20 years ago. But the cabinet still has a number of agencies that report, whether it be the Office of Insurance Regulation, Office of Financial Regulation, Department of Veteran Affairs, State Land. So we still have FDLE, Highway Safety. These agencies still report to the cabinet, which is it's unique. But it's the best job in the state to have. I tell people affectionately that, really, because we do write every check in the state, we pretty much have the ability to go in and have a seat at any table. I can audit anything in the state that I want to audit, and we try to partner up in a way that is in the best interest of watching the state's taxpayers' money and ensuring, the state's revenues are in balance as we work in coordination with the legislature and the governor. Also being a trustee over the state's retirement fund with the SBA. I mean, I can go on and on and on, but again, I think it's a little easy. I just tell people I'm the state's business manager. You bring your bills to me, I pay them. You know what? I make sure you get your paycheck. I help you pay your bills. So anyway, great to join you. That's kind of a little bit of a nutshell what we do.
Can I bring you my bills?
No.
Since we're writing checks, I was just like, wait, I have something to send you. So
and I got it. Look, if I don't mention this, I'm going to get hounded by my team. We are also, where we can actually give you some money, is our division of unclaimed property. So if you go to my Florida Treasure Hunt, myfloриdatreasurehunt.gov, that's our state's unclaimed property. 1 in 7 individuals have something in it. And I guarantee you, with whomever is watching on the show right now for this program, if you'll go and check that right now and put your name, the name of your firm, a name of a loved one, I guarantee you somebody watching today will have something on unclaimed property. These are things like utility deposits, uncashed paychecks, insurance proceeds, stock dividends, get rebate cards, you name it. This year was our biggest year ever. We issued over $300 million worth of proceeds back to the citizens of the state of Florida without any need of going through external fees or anything. We issue that. But never look, sometimes, and as y'all all know, sometimes it could be complicated. There could be probate involved. And there's going to be instances where, as we partner up with our banks then even send us safety deposit boxes. But sometimes, because this may require, verification of death of a loved one and all those, again, we work hand in hand with our financial institutions and with those firms that are dealing with estate issues in order to bring these things in for a nice landing and get these proceeds back in the hands of the loved ones who are heir to them.
Well, that's wonderful information. And I actually have put it, the website that you gave, I have it scrolling along the bottom here for everyone. Well, I want to turn back. You talked about storms, and I want to return back a little bit and talk about Florida's, our panhandle has experienced a great deal of trauma with several powerful storms, the most recent being Hurricane Sally. Can you talk a bit about your travels through these areas, including your hometown of Panama City, and different ways that your office is involved in assisting those efforts? I know you talked about it in terms of boots on the ground immediately with debris removal, but can you also talk about the work of the insurance consumer advocate in those situations? Sure.
So with Hurricane Michael, you had a Category 5 storm hit Northwest Florida. Over 150,000 insurance claims, over $7.5 billion worth of claims have been paid out. Less than 10% of those claims are still yet to be resolved. And the claims that are left yet to be resolved, those are the ones that are, look, they're complicated. You may have a public adjuster involved. You may have an attorney involved. You may have a contractor involved. Some type of dispute. Some of these are new claims. And look, there's no perfect scenario of this. Sometimes you have insurance companies that, and I would plead with the insurance companies before the storm, we would pound them. Look, guys, have your A teams in place. We know the storm is coming. Now, Hurricane Michael was a fast storm. I mean, it moved over 10 miles an hour. So as an insurance company that's trying to do business in the state of Florida, they grow for the occasion. So as they may have a staff of 70 or 80 that operate the company, but during the time of a storm, and you may have thousands of claims, they will go out and they will bring in bodies, they'll bring in contractors in order just to answer the phones. So we are constantly, there's a lot of the carriers are also pretty aggressive about doing pre-event claims. We know the storm's going to hit Northwest Florida. There's no doubt about it. Go ahead and you start the process where that paperwork and filing the claim and your contact information is pre-registered in order to streamline the process. Our current insurance advocate is an incredible woman by the name of Tasha Carter. Tasha at that time was in the role of running our consumer affairs for the state of Florida, and working directly in our agency. Tasha and Greg Thomas and team led a series of insurance villages we had in Northwest Florida. I think we ended up doing 10 of them. And this was pre-COVID, so they were all face-to-face meetings. But as we had these insurance villages, we would have as many as, I think we got up to as many as 40 insurance companies that would assemble. We would set up in parking lots. We set up, and once electricity got turned back on, we were setting up at Gulf Coast State College or other buildings that we could have access to. And we would start to, force the dialogue to take place. Families would come forward with their binders stacked of details regarding their claims and what they paid out and invoices. And we would put them right in front of the insurance carrier. And the last probably 4 insurance villages we had, we insisted that the insurance companies, which they always had kind of had this as part of their ability to do so, but we demanded that they write checks. So then we started keeping track of those checks that they were writing. I believe we hit just over $40 million worth of benefits paid out, where if an individual contacted our office saying, I've got a problem with my claim, this is what the carrier has offered me. By contacting us, we were able to put about $40 million more in their pocket just by letting us get engaged. So again, we have an extraordinary set of circumstances, a reason why they call it a disaster. And then you have the other complicated issues. You have the games that take place. We worked hand in hand with your teams as after Hurricane Michael, we had assignment of benefits reforms that had passed to try to clean up some of the bad actors that are in it. Look, our financial institutions, there's individuals that have mortgages out there. They need to be able to get, money settled in order to move it around, in order to solve it. So, I mean, again, a lot of moving parts. You might as well, you've taken, 2 or 3 jigsaw puzzles, dumped them in one 5-gallon bucket and poured them on the floor and said, okay, put them together. That's what happens when a hurricane happens, because, you had a breakdown in communication for over 11 days with one of the major cellular providers. You didn't have electricity for 24 days. So all these things mixed together made it for an incredibly challenging recovery. Now, what are we looking at? We're still looking at north of $800 million. That is at DEO. Dane Eagle is the new director of DEO. Those dollars have come down from the federal government as they're finally finishing the program in tweaks and what waivers will be adopted. Those dollars then will get deployed out to counties and cities, different levels of government, in order to start to continue the rebuilding process. A couple other challenges that has happened right now is as supply and demand has hit, you've got, let's talk about shingles for a minute. Currently right now, the state of Florida, we're seeing a growth in home sales of 26% over last year. You're seeing prices of homes nationwide increase by over 6%, and you're seeing decreases in housing prices and housing sales in cities and counties and states that are a higher tax. So people are moving this organic movement from high tax states to low tax states. That's putting extra stress. So right now, if you want to get a roof put on your house in Northwest Florida, or anywhere in the state for that matter, there's a pretty significant delay because there's so much construction taking place. You still have people that are lingering from the disaster. Then you have a Sally hit over in Pensacola. So you're putting stress on supply lines. Oh, by the way, the pandemic of COVID has put in place, which has now disrupted the accessibility to any of those materials. Again, a roof doesn't come to your house all in one piece. It's an assembly of thousands and thousands of little pieces in order to make one big piece. There's challenges that go along with it. That is a long answer to tell you that it has been an eventful 2 years post Hurricane Michael.
Wow. Yeah, we're certainly hoping, and our prayers go out to everyone that we're bracing for another storm. I cannot believe it here. And we're just, we're bracing again, but hopefully this thing will miss us. That's our hope.
Sure. And look, and all this has a direct effect on insurance rates. It is what it is. As you're seeing more storms, this is one of the most active storm season we've had in decades. Thank goodness we haven't had the type of hits we could have had, but all these ultimately affect insurance rates and challenges that we face with.
Yeah. So now we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects. Let's switch gears and talk about banking. Last year, Representative Grant was the sponsor for House Bill 1391, which was a piece of legislation that dealt with the fintech industry. And I know your office was closely monitoring and involved in crafting that legislation because fintech is obviously the wave of the future. Tell us a little bit about the legislation and why you believe Florida is a place for fintech to thrive as an industry.
Sure. So, I mean, as Florida is seeing unprecedented growth, we're very fortunate. And if you look at just in the movement of people, over 900 people a day, that's kind of a crazy number. 900 people a day are moving to the state of Florida. They're coming here with their dollars, their retirement funds, their businesses. So you definitely are seeing an opportunity of growth. There's hot spots around the state, whether it be Jacksonville or the Space Coast, where you're seeing folks that are coming and filling jobs in demand. I was talking to the number 2 at NASA earlier this year at the SpaceX launch, and I'm sitting there just thinking, wow. I mean, y'all are all, you got, Blue Origin and SpaceX, and you got all these, Boeing, you got all these different private contract vendors that are duking it out for, providing these, low orbit services. I said, are you fighting for employees? And they said, on the contrary, there's people moving here because they want to be part of this next generation. So, I mean, we're seeing that also, especially, like I said, in Tampa and Orlando and Jacksonville and Miami, where those financial sectors that have a presence. And now you're seeing more and more of institutions that are moving their organizations and their leadership teams and creating a larger presence in Florida. So to me, it's just natural that there's needs to be a greater embrace of how fintech can complement the expansion of these companies that are relocating and bringing good paying jobs to the state of Florida. And we raise the bar. Other states are going to be competitive with this also. Unfortunately for them, some of them, their state's finances are train wrecks. And for us, we need to just, strike while the iron is hot. And again, I think the fintech legislation that passed last year was a good start. But again, listening to the industry, understanding what we can do in order to be competitive, I think is critical. And, input that we can get back from our partners at Florida Bankers is an asset as we move forward to try to make Florida the best place to relocate because of our fintech policies.
Now, yeah. So, since we're talking about money and our state's money, as lobbyists, Ken and I are always looking and watching the budget. And you, as our CFO and as a former legislator, I know you look to make sure Florida is spending our tax dollars wisely. So can you tell us where we are with our sales taxes? Are we down? And how would you like to see our new legislature, if we are down, how would you like to see them make cuts if that is the scenario?
Sure. So, I mean, we can look around the room and look around Tallahassee. When it comes to term limits in the Florida legislature, I was in the Florida House during the foreclosure crisis, the last one that we had, and where we had multiple billions of dollars shortfall had to be cut in a single year. And if I'll just start, this may be a little bit of a longer answer than you want, but if we look back at 2006, the state had a $70 billion budget. We had $6.5 billion in reserves, and the state had issued over 20,000 building permits. In 2009, just 3 years later, state still had almost a $70 billion budget. Reserves were down to $900 million, and only 2,000 building permits have been issued. So, the dependency, thank goodness that we have a significant amount of our debt paid off. We have great revenues, great reserves in the state, and that the economy wasn't devastated by a hurricane. It was a different type of effect that COVID-19 had on the state. Now, when you get down to Central Florida and you drive down International Drive, it's like a zombie apocalypse. The hotels are closed, the restaurants aren't being utilized, and you look at the ripple effect. If people aren't flying in airplanes to the largest attraction area in our state. They're not renting cars. They're not staying in hotel rooms. There's no bed taxes being collected. There's no rental cars being collected. So there's so many fees that come off rental car rentals. So we have got a very robust tourism economy that depends on sales tax and user fees in order to cash flow so many services in our state. So again, what broke earlier today, which has sent the stock market up, exponentially, is the news that Pfizer has a vaccine that looks like is effective towards 90% of those. Right? We'll definitely need to cross our fingers. But because of that, this is the type of consumer confidence that we're needing, that hopefully will jumpstart. If you go look at the indexes, I think one of the biggest stocks that's up today is the cruise line industry. I think Carnival is up like 35% today, because so many industries are hinged on that. And you look at that directly relates to our state's revenue. So COVID took a huge chunk of our state sales tax revenue. We were down billions of dollars this year. But what did we see in order to try to supplement that? Congress passed the CARES Act. The CARES Act was kind of a bridge loan solution for our states, and not just our states, our businesses and our individuals. We had over $17 billion in unemployment benefits paid out, a number that's never been paid out in the history of the state that large. You had the second highest number of applications. I think it was Anthony that told me this, but I think Florida was the second highest recipient of PPP loans of any state in the union. All these ended up saving small businesses, ended up saving households. In addition, and we've still got about $6 billion in CARES Act dollars that's in my checking account and your checking account. The frustration with it, whether you want to call it frustration, I think it's well intended. But Congress passes this thing, and the dollars.
Did we lose our CFO? Let's see if he'll pop back in. I think he's frozen. Let's see if he'll pop back in. Let's give it a second. His answer was really, it's kind of what we all knew, but to hear it was really disturbing about our sales tax.
Yeah, it is.
It was really disturbing. So I'm going to see if our CFO is going to return to us. I'm hoping he will. He may not realize that he's frozen with us. Let's see if he'll leave the studio and come right back in. I'll see if I can remove him, and then I'll bring him right back in from the stream, and we'll see if he'll join us and finish answering that question. It was really good.
Yeah, here he comes, I think.
Nope, hold on. He left, and let's see him. I think he's going to log back in. So if our audience members will bear with us, we are going to have CLE for this interview. And if you want to post your questions and comments, we are hoping that the CFO will return and come back into our live stream, and we'll add him back into the show. In the meantime, please go ahead and post your questions and comments. And I'll go ahead and put up the CLE number that we had for today. Let's see if we have that here. We have our CLE number, which is 4302. And let's hope that the CFO joins us back in.
Yeah, we had a number of different really good topics. I wanted to hear about what's happening with COVID and certainly his ability or his initiative to help protect some of our businesses. So we got a bunch of more questions. Hopefully, looks like he's coming back in maybe right now.
Hold on. It looks like he's coming. There he is.
There we go.
Perfect. Well, we've been talking about CLE, and actually your answer about sales tax, we kind of knew it, but to actually hear it was a little heart-wrenching about how much trouble that we've been in with a lot of the small businesses. But I am glad to hear that the CARES Act was able to serve as a bridge for many businesses. And I want to pick up back where we were. So we were asking you about the sales tax and what you think the state and how we should prioritize and bounce back from that.
Sure. So can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. I some reason why my iPad totally froze and then reset itself. So anyway.
It always does that when we're live.
I know, right? So the $6 billion that we've got, here's the challenge. Unbudgeted COVID-related expenses. So we still have $1 billion spent the fight in Washington, D.C. And I'm afraid, Mitch McConnell came out earlier advocating that he wants to do something. Working on Senator Scott and Senator Rubio, guys, all we need, if you want to do us a favor, is just give us some flexibility in the money you've already given us. Here's the challenge you've got. The Californias and the Illinois and the New Jerseys and the New Yorks, they were literally operating from week to week financially before COVID-19 hit, and paying their debts and servicing their services. The state of Florida, the legislature rolled forward $2 billion of unspent money this year. In addition we have another $1.1 in our budget stabilization fund. So we lived off of our $2 billion unallocated. Those other big states couldn't do it. So, here where some flexibility from Congress with the dollars that we already have would be helpful. Those other big states, that's not enough. So this is what's contributed to such just horrific impasse, and why the House of Representatives, is asking for so much more money than what the Senate is willing to counter with. This is all about, that bailing out those big states, but states that have had the fiscal restraint to do what we've done over the last 10 years are just in a much better position. When it comes to tax revenues, what we have seen is the estimating conference met. They predicted some pretty grim outlook of what state was going to have in sales tax revenue. It has actually been much better than they anticipated, because really the beach destinations, the coastal areas, they did really well during the summer with COVID-19. And in addition, there's no football games, there's no cruise ships going. There's so many activities that typically are a way for families to get away to do vacations. Those were eliminated. So families loaded up in a car and they drove to the beaches. So coastal hotels, coastal beach destinations did very well, and those were sales tax revenues that were not anticipated by the revenue estimating conference. And look, I'm a Northwest Florida guy. I grew up in the tourism industry in Northwest Florida. I've always been a little resentful, because it seems like most of the state thinks we have one season. We actually have more than one season. Northwest Florida season is prosperity takes place during the summer when school's out, because Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, all those states descend on the closest beach they can come to, and that's Northwest Florida. So anyway, I think, based on our discipline we've had over the previous years, with, a pretty good sales tax revenue considering what's happening. And here's the other plus, and I'll leave it and let you go to your next question, is credit card debt did not increase. So, people were able to live within their means. In addition, live within their means. The CARES Act dollars that did flow out, whether it be unemployment or the PPP loans that flowed out, all those did their job. They served as a bridge loan to help people cash flow. Are the people still hurting? Absolutely. Are there businesses that won't come back? That's going to be part of the case. But it did save people's businesses. It did save people's livelihoods.
Awesome. Yeah, I am a part of that. Folks that go to the Panhandle every year, we try to get over that way to make sure that we're on 30A. So we're right outside of your hometown of Panama City is where we normally are, and we were there, and the crowds were tremendous. So
yeah, still that way.
Awesome. So, we want to continue on the COVID theme, but move a little bit to legislatively, and talk about how we expect that to happen what we expect to happen in 2021. So, there's been some talk about, and I think AIF and the chamber have had some discussions about how do we protect Florida businesses from COVID claims, spurious COVID claims, and certainly we want businesses to be open safely, and we want them to be able to protect the public, but we also need to protect our businesses. How do you think we are going to be able to strike that balance? What do you think that legislation, what can be done in that legislation to help protect our businesses and allow them to reopen, and so we can kind of get back to a little bit of normal?
Sure. Thanks, Ken, for that question. Look, I think the first marker has been thrown down. We've been advocating for this since the spring, that we're going to need some COVID liability protections. Leader McConnell has advocated for it at a federal level. Uncertain what's going to happen at the national level, but I feel like Florida still has to lead on this thing no matter what. I think like I said, the first marker that was really thrown down by Speaker Sprouse, Designate Sprouse, with Tom Leak being chair of this new pandemic committee. You're going to see probably a little bit of a buffet of ideas that will come out of that committee, probably one large package, just like what happened after 9/11, just like what we're doing in order to ensure the state's economy has some belts and suspenders. And I've advocated, look, I said, look, the pandemic was unique. There wasn't a playbook on the shelf that we're able to take off that has walked us through everything that we should do to protect our economy and protect our businesses. And so we're going to learn from this. We sent, starting March, we sent almost 3,000 of our employees home for teleworking. And again, it was primarily for protection of our employees to be able to continue to do the job as they work for the citizens of the state. But at the same time, there's those other first responders out there that can't have that peace of mind. So, risk management comes underneath my agency. We immediately said, okay, if you're a first responder covered by the state's risk pool, we're going to treat it as a workers' comp claim. If you're a highway patrolman or a patrolwoman, any of these individuals that are working on behalf of the state provide services that you didn't have the choice to be able to work from home. So, as we had some discretion to do some things under the governor's emergency order, I still think legislation forward. And again, if a business is abiding by CDC guidelines, Department of Health guidelines, doing everything right by them, I want to make sure that the frivolous lawsuits don't end up creating problems for our business moving forward. But at the same time, businesses have to be held accountable. There's going to be guidelines that we're going to roll out and say that if you're doing these things, you should be in a good place because it's got to be a happy medium. You can't just say, oh, I have this blanket bulletproof vest and I can do whatever I want to do, and I'm not looking out for the best interest of my employees or my customers. So again, keep it simple. Make sure that we hold business accountable and don't allow a rampant environment where litigation is hurtful to this recovery. Nobody wants to see anyone get hurt from COVID-19. Whatever business that you might be in. And unfortunately, we just need some cooler heads to prevail. I've even told them, I said, look, I said, even if we push some policies forward and they have a sunset provision in it, I'm fine with that too, because I feel like a lot of our concerns could go away once you see a vaccine in place. And look, the vaccine isn't going to be, the home run, but it'll definitely be a great starting point.
Right. I think that'll help curb some of the numbers that we're seeing. So, you talked about that your agency was working from home, and that's one of the ways that they adjusted. Was there anything else that your agency was affected by with regards to COVID in their ability to carry out its various duties? Are you all back on track, or can you hear me?
Yeah,
okay.
I can hear you. Okay. I told our teams back in March, make notes. I said, I want detailed notes. What did you need? Since there wasn't a pandemic handbook on the shelf, maybe create one, just like we have one for hurricanes. So, what we find out, we need lots more laptops. We need more cell phones, these things in order to continue to conduct our business. Some of the things that we did learn, and especially with our call centers, is we still have our productivity numbers that we've had of our response times, our number of cases that we've been able to handle and deal with, because we allowed remote working in the state, especially when you get in certain parts of the state where our employees had maybe an hour commute, their productivity increased at home. So, we will embrace some hybrid work, product moving forward, where there will be, working from home as addition to working in the office. I can see where there probably won't be as much of a need for the type of square right now. We're able to embrace more flexibility in how we do business on behalf of the citizens of the state of Florida. But again, I think there's some real opportunities for some realization of some savings, quality of life. But it's a pretty monumental shift in the way the state of Florida has been doing, over the last 50 years.
Yeah, I think many small businesses are also taking an accounting of how they could pivot during this time and maybe what cost saving measures that they can continue going forward.
Exactly. Totally agree. And, we, initially sent all of our employees to work from home. When you do that, you actually have an enhanced payment supplement that those employees get. Then we went to a position where we closed our storefronts, let our employees work in the building. And then we basically created a little more an environment of flexibility. So we're making our dollars. I mean, just by the changes we made internally, we were able to push $7 million just over the last few months back to the state's general revenue of cost saving measures we did. We have, I spoke earlier about the CARES Act dollars, of the $6 billion worth of CARES Act dollars. Well, we're sitting on it. We can't really do a whole lot with it. We went and invested it. So we turned $61 million worth of interest payments back over to the state. So, we have been trying to, think outside the box and just be as aggressive as we can, or where we can save money, save it, and where we can push money back out, do exactly that.
Yeah, that can help to pay some of Rosanna's bills, and she's trying to get you to help out with. So CFO, every year we know that typically you guys have an agency bill and want to move to kind of 2021 and kind of also talk a little bit about what you all are expecting to bring forward, maybe as an agency bill, or maybe even outside of that, what you all are interested in legislatively that you see on the forefront in 2021.
Sure. So our number one priority will be, again, dealing with COVID liability protections. I think it's going to be critical that we push forward reasonable policy. We partner up with the Florida Bar. We partner up with the Chamber, with AAF, the Retail Federation, the Restaurant Association, to get businesses back in operation and being sensitive to all the stakeholders that could have concerns about a change in policy or language. So again, that'll be our number one priority. And like I said, I appreciate Speaker Designate Sprowse's focus on this, like I said, by appointing Tom Leak as a chair of this new pandemic committee. So we hope to see a solution bounce quickly with that, but we're going to still do what I think we always do. Every year that I've had this job, look, I was supposed to be home. Okay. I didn't go and send a resume to Senator Scott, then Governor Scott say, hey, you get the CFO job open. I want it. So it's become one of those things. I still can't divorce from being a small business person. I can divorce myself from caring about what businesses deal with as they try to pay their bills and focus. So we're always going to be focused on helping small businesses, helping do everything we can to make insurance rates affordable in the state of Florida. Every year that I've been in office, we've pushed forward legislation to ultimately, make insurance rates more affordable, more accountable, fraud and waste. We'll continue to do more of that. I think every year, I'm not one of those that has to hit a home run every time I'm at bat. I understand this process well enough that if I can get 60%, 70% of what I hope to accomplish, let it work out. And as you've seen it, y'all are both seasoned professionals that have watched this process closely over your professional careers. And if there's one thing for sure that I know, is the citizens of the state of Florida are smarter than us that work in government. As soon as we roll out a policy or an idea that we thought, man, we just invented the next best mousetrap, they find a way to eliminate. And I got to share one story. We're in the foreclosure crisis. And so we are seeing, the court system is wearing us out because they want more dollars to handle the caseloads that they're going to have to deal with the foreclosure crisis. So Florida legislature, I'm in the legislature at the time, we come up with this idea, well, God, we can't raise taxes, but they need more money for foreclosures. So, all right, well, what's a user fee that makes sense that we can deal with this with? So we said, all right, well, foreclosures and evictions go hand in hand. If foreclosures are going to spike, then that means evictions are going to spike. So we increased the eviction fee. It was like $125 for the last 18, 20 years. So we increased it to like $300. I'm using round numbers. You're asking me to remember something 15 years ago. So we go and we increase it, by over 100%. We pat ourselves on the back. We feel like we solved the solution. Session ends, this new policy goes into place, and our phones start melting. All the legislators all over the state, the phones start melting from all the landlords and property management companies screaming at us because of what we've done to their cost of business. So gosh, well, we felt like we created a solution, and then what ended up happening is the calls stopped. Nobody was calling. None of the property companies or the landlords were calling us anymore, because now what they did is they went straight to the tenant and said, here's $200 cash, we leave. And the tenant gladly took the money and left. It was cheaper than giving it to the court system. It was a heck of a lot more efficient. And then we got no money into the state's system in order to handle the foreclosure process. So again, never underestimate how clever citizens of this state are. And as a government that only meets, by obligation once a year, sometimes the solutions that we push out there are good, but they can be undermined.
That was a great story.
Yeah, that is a great story.
We had to come back and correct it, but it's just, our people are smart in this state. They really are. They hate paying taxes, that's sure.
So CFO, I can't let you get away without talking about, again, something that's a passion for the financial industry, the blockchain industry. And and a lot of folks don't understand it. So want you to provide some education on what blockchain really is, and also talk about a little bit about the task force that you put together that I know is studying that topic.
Sure. So, in my opinion, blockchain has the ability to, it can really replace almost anything for true, check and verify validity when it comes to doing business in the state. Records keeping, especially, I guess I get really excited about blockchain is with medical records. I think there can be opportunities where we have some greater streamlining and sharing of medical records across the state. And look, I know that those diagnostic tests that take place, you need real-time information when it comes to a patient in order to understand, what the latest data is showing or information regarding a diagnostic test they had. But if you have something where you can share those records and have some effective information that goes along with it to verify that they're actually been conducted, they have been manipulated or altered, and somebody can look at them, you can date and note the time, and it's more on a standardized system. I'm just thinking of what we could do in order to drive down just little things like healthcare costs there. And then you can apply it anywhere. Can you imagine where it would be at times of loan closings or mortgage closings? There's just so many ways. I think it's limitless of where blockchain and that type of checks and balances type of technology can be implemented. Again, it's a little bit overwhelming. It's a little bit, Buck Rogers in sense, but what we really need to do is again, task force has been assembled, some smart folks on there putting together a work product, providing to the legislature to hopefully give the legislature some direction, or where we can embrace some of their recommendations of what some other states and businesses are asking for, again, in order to let this complement what we ultimately could see with Fintech in order to keep our state moving forward. There's one thing you'll realize, as you are all members of professional associations, and some of which have statewide conferences or national conferences. Not right now because of COVID, but you know where I'm going with this. But Florida really is the pace setter when it comes to so much of this. We saw it legislatively with the policies that we passed. Nobody wants to know what Idaho's doing in education policy. They want to know what Florida's doing. Nobody wants to know what Tennessee is doing in energy policy. They want to know what Florida's doing. So there's so many other great states out there, but Florida's really the place where great ideas come from.
Well, we have some viewer questions, so let me go ahead and start. We've got one that says, you've made some special efforts to attract Florida companies like Amazon and others to headquarter in Florida. Have you been successful in those efforts?
So, thanks for that question. I think it's part of my job. I grew up in the restaurant business. I'm always about recruiting new customers into the business. Whether you advertise on what, the same thing with our state. We've got a great tax environment in the state of Florida. We've got a great quality of life. We've got so many things that make Florida attractive. But we constantly out there fishing. whether it be, me trolling on Elon Musk as, California is shutting down his plants. But, it's obvious that Texas was also aggressively courting Elon Musk also. Look, there's going to be things and businesses that we're not going to be quite as attractive to. If I'm building a production model car and I want to distribute it nationwide, there's definitely some logistical advantages being in Central Texas has to getting across the 50 states. So again, I think it's for part of it. It's always promoting. It gives me every time there's disruption in the states, and I can go and pounce on a governor's poor decision and point out that Florida doesn't do business that way. We should take every opportunity to promote this state. And it's just like the guy who he goes to prom and he doesn't go to the date, and he starts asking everybody to dance with him. Eventually, somebody's going to dance with him, and he's going to forget about all those ones that told him no. All he's going to remember is the one girl who said yes. So again, that's the way I feel about Florida. I feel like you continue to constantly push and advocate. There will be that we will be able to own and take pride of making that relationship happen. Some of them will just be brought to light and say, you know what? Florida's got a good point in what they're advocating for. Let's go ahead and make that move. And, we're seeing, venture capital firms move to this state right now because, people don't want to live in New York anymore. And I don't blame them. They, I was talking to a guy the other day, and he had more money than I do. And I was asking him, I said, what's it take to make, a major company to move? He says, it's all about the families. He says, if you can create an environment where their families will enjoy the movement, they have embraced their cost of business in the state they're in, whether it be a New York or a New Jersey or Illinois. They've embraced that cost of doing business. You have to be able to take the emotional part out of it. So again, as long as we continue to do right by the cash and the cost of doing business in the state, and we can continue to accentuate what an amazing state this is for quality of life, we'll get some base hits.
Excellent. And I think there's one more question I'm seeing. One
Sure.
of the newest directives that you have issued requires greater transparency for the vendors that do business with DFS. Discuss with us the greater need for vendor transparency within your office.
Sure. So again, the state of Florida, we have an enormous book of business of individuals who do business with the state of Florida. I think, bringing greater awareness. Sometimes, you need to force everybody who is still eligible to do business in the state of Florida to justify they still exist. A lot of times this is just for more accurate record keeping and ensuring that they're still, operating, doing business, and just gives us an opportunity to kind of clean up our own database. So again, I think there's been a tremendous amount of awareness that has been brought because of COVID-19 of the disruption we've got, supply lines and dependency that we have got on companies that do business outside of the United States, which bring more logistical challenges. And, as we're all fighting for PPE and other types of products because of the pandemic, I think it would be nice to be able to kind of weigh out and provide this type of information to the legislature saying, all right, as we're moving forward with new vendor solutions, and we've got, an awareness where we've got vendors doing business that are wholly operated in the state of Florida, that helps keep those dollars in sales tax generating those jobs in the state. And oh, by the way, there's an apples to apples price and the apples to apples spec on it. I'd like to be able to ensure that Florida-based jobs do receive some priority, especially if it's a no-brainer when it comes to cost of business. So again, I think where we have gone out and tried to create greater transparency where vendors do business and where they're domiciled in the state of Florida, I think all that does is just provide, when procurement is taking place, a greater understanding of how we can most benefit the taxpayers of the state of Florida.
Right. We're running out of time, Mr. CFO, but I want to ask you one other question before we let you go. And this just has to do with your service over the many years in the legislature, also on the Public Service Commission, and now in the CFO's office where you've been for several years. What is your greatest achievement? What do you consider the thing that you are most proud of during your public service in all those areas?
I don't know if I necessarily can want to hang my hat on any one single issue. I think where we have had the opportunity to realize that we can move the needle on policy. it's much different being a legislator with the pencil and eraser in your hand, and then you become on the executive side where you can only advocate and you don't have the ability to write the laws. But I would think probably what sticks with me more than anything else we've done since I've been in office was probably it'd be a flip of a coin, whether it be cancer benefits for our firefighters or PTSD benefits for our first responders. If there's nothing else that I realize with getting this job that I've taken for granted, and a lot of us do, we live in an amazing state. It's a safe state. We live in great neighborhoods. Our kids go to good schools. There's good quality jobs here in the state, but none of that exists if it isn't for our first responders. And every time you dial 911, somebody comes and shows up at your home or your business, no matter what the circumstances, and provides this safety net 24/7, 365 during weddings, during birthdays, during Christmas, in order to create the type of peace of mind we have in the state. And as we take that for granted, that, and it's an amazing utility we have in this state, but we take it for granted. And I look at, the suicide rate amongst our first responders is 10 times higher than you or me. That's just simply an unacceptable number. And we had a case where a woman by the name of Megan Villa, I'm gonna give you a much longer answer than you wanted, but I just got to tell you this once I got started. Megan Villa came and met me. I'm a brand new CFO, and her brother Stevie Ledoux had been working for a municipal fire department. Went and was having demons he was fighting, the things that he'd been tormented with, the images you can't erase off the chalkboard that are ingrained in his mind over some of these challenging life and death experiences, has started taking their toll. So he goes and he files a workers' comp claim with the municipality. The municipality says, "Whoa, time out. Stevie, this isn't an eligible claim. So, one, you're going to have to, we'll have to stop providing those benefits to you. Two, you're going to have to, pay back the state, the municipality, the services that you expend." So Stevie was, not with anywhere to turn, and Stevie committed suicide. So kind of kicking him while I was down. So here, Megan, I'm brand new on the job. Megan comes and sees me, and she starts telling me the story I just told you, and she expects me to do something about it. And I'm thinking, gosh, I'm no longer a legislator anymore. I can't write a bill. And what do I do? And I thought, how can I not do something? And we partnered up with the legislature, and it was a true showing of bipartisanship. And here a single constituent comes forward with an emotional story, and it takes somebody losing their life for us to want to make a difference in the state. So anyway, I didn't get to write the bill. I didn't get to do anything but advocate for it. But she gave us a great idea, and we worked together and compromised. And that's one that gets me on the one broke up. So anyway, man, what a great way to end this call, but bawling in front of you. So anyway,
no, sir,
it's good stuff. I'm very, very fortunate to be able to join y'all today.
Well, we're fortunate to have you, and we are fortunate to have you as our CFO. We all know that you care about what happens in our state, and it shows. It shows, Mr. CFO. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for speaking to the lobbying community. Thank you for allowing us to get CLE credit. And we are just pleased to have you with us. So thank you. You want to say anything in parting?
Yeah, I just love to know, did anybody go to my Florida treasure hunt and find any money? If you did, I'd love to know about it. You can just email me at jimmy.patronis@myfloridacfo.com. I'd appreciate it.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Thank you for being a part.
All right.
Thank you for being so open. Take care.
Yep.
See
y'all.
Thank you all for joining.